Well, I know that I've said this before, but firm spotlights are my favorite because we like knowing what's under the hood.
Me
We
too.
do.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. And, comments, feel free to chat, to say what it is that you're using, ask questions. But Rachel, you brave soul, you are joining us live and sharing your tech stack. And it's always just really fun show and tell.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
So, Heather, do you want to do a intro?
Yes, I do. I'm like answering all of these chats just to the hosts and panelists. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
So just to recap, everybody, I will introduce myself in a minute, but I have said hello to Judy, to Shannon, to Jean, and none of you saw it, but I was saying hello to you. So, all right.
Say hi to Jean too. Hi, Jean.
So, hey, everybody, I'm Heather Satterley. I'm the Director of Education and Media at Woodard. I am also a CPA and an accounting technology lover. I have been so excited this past week. I have been going back to my roots of tinkering and setting up automations and systems. So anybody who knows me knows that I love setting up processes. I love figuring out what the workflow is, finding the technology, setting it all up, getting all the automations done. And I've been like doing that all week because I hired somebody to help me at Woodard, and I had to set up, I had to do a migration from Airtable to Monday.com. And then I had to set up all the SOPs and all the workflow. And I'm like, gosh, I love this. I love this. So it is kind of my happy place. Not gonna lie.
It's fun to
That's what I
tinker.
do. Don't know if that was introducing myself, but I just told a whole lot about myself. So hopefully
I think it's a great introduction. It
Yeah.
lets us know your happy place.
It does. I love setting up technology. I do.
I do too.
Well, so I get to play host to my dear friend Heather this week, and I'm excited. It's going to be really fun.
We are going to have.
I've been sending little teaser pictures to Heather along the way, and every once in a while I'll throw in one and I'm like, are you scared yet?
Have I gotten one recently?
No. But yeah, we planted flowers this weekend, so you'll get to see some of my new irises. And I showed you my
that one was a little scary. I'm not going to lie. It's like,
it is Oklahoma and there's lots of pastures, so there's lots of boneyards. So sometimes you collect them.
Yes.
Very fun.
Yeah, she sent me a text of her garden with bones in it, and she's like, I'm getting things ready for you.
And she wanted to know what happened to the last people who had stayed with us.
Right, I'm like,
I'm afraid to ask bones of what?
Well, so there's cattle pastures that back up to like our area, and there's horses. There's even one of our neighbors who's got a camel, odd, but
okay.
So you never know what you're gonna find out here. It's just roaming pastures.
love it.
I can't wait. Well, so our special guest, Rachel Dauchy, most of our attendees are dear friends, so you probably don't need much of an introduction, but for those who don't know everything that you do you want to give some highlights?
Yes, sure. Would you like me to elaborate on some of the things?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So my firm is Net Deposited, and I rebranded to that about 2 years ago, I want to say. But I have had my business since probably the end of 2019. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for several years, and when my kids were born and very, very little. And before that, I worked in accounting. And so I always sort of worked in inventory accounting and operations. And so I really enjoyed the operational aspect of connecting things together. And actually, that's when I first met Heather, is when I took her Zapier class, because I just, was going down a rabbit hole, and I, found Zapier and found different ways to connect different systems, and ended up meeting Heather, and her class was incredible. And I don't know if you're still doing those classes, but if you're not, you should. I'm still using Zapier. I'm definitely not an expert. It's still, I still find it challenging, but I still do simple zaps, and I hope one day to get to the more complicated ones. And I don't want to have a tangent, but Heather, now they have AI. You can
I
tell
know.
Zapier, I want to do this and that, and it'll pop one up for you.
They have, Rachel, they have so much new stuff. They have tables, which is like Airtable. They have chatbots. So Liz and I, a couple of episodes ago, I demoed their chatbot. You can create, it's kind of like the custom GPTs that you can do in ChatGPT. So they're really innovating and pushing the limits on what you can do with automation. So it's
it's really cool.
It is.
And it helps me because, my problem is, well, it's probably not a problem, but, you can see I also am very involved in Shopify. And even just right before we got on this webinar, I was talking to another international Shopify seller, and that's really my happy place. I love those kinds of clients, and I use all kinds of different inventory apps such as Katana. That's also on my list here. But really, this description, I usually say it's sort of the intersection of accounting, training, and software as a service. And who is very similar to me is Z. She's on the webinar right now too. And I know that's her sweet spot too, is really at that intersection of SaaS and training and accounting. And I love it because I'll tell you something funny. When I first started QuickBooks Online, and I just was jumping into every single webinar and every single thing I could find, I thought I had to integrate everything. I thought you had to with QuickBooks Online. I didn't know anything about anything. I took QuickBooks Desktop, way back in college, and the accounting softwares I always worked in were totally desktop. So I really didn't know much about any kind of cloud-based accounting software. And so all these different webinars I started taking kind of my first year, before I was really even taking any clients, I thought, oh, I have to connect this. Oh, it's mandatory. I don't know. Who knows what I was thinking? And so through that, I just started troubleshooting all kinds of stuff and took Zapier classes and really got into the nuts and bolts of a lot of this stuff, and really realized at the same time, all these webinars about, you need to get into advisory and this and that and the other. And I realized, oh, this is my advisory space in, kind of putting all these things together with my background, which was inventory, and accounting, which I really do love. I've now since gone back to school. I'm now getting my master's in accounting, which is, I don't even know what's going on. Like I'm so busy, but but I do love it. And I'm actually finishing my first term this week as my final, and then I have the summer off, and then I'll be back in the fall. But I love it because I feel like my journey has come from just kind of, I want to go back to work and I want to work in the cloud. And for me, that was necessary because my husband was moved to Detroit, and we've moved around a lot for his job, and I didn't know if we were going to have to move again. So I really had to be in a cloud-based service. And so that's what started me in QBO. And then just kind of realizing that, oh, wow, it's, all these different options are there for me. And then I'm also in a really amazing community that was led by Erin Walsh-Dyer, who unfortunately has since passed away, but she gave me the best advice. She said, you don't have to do compliance bookkeeping. You can do anything you want to do. Just decide what you want to do and do it. And I swear to God, I didn't even think that. I thought I had to do compliance bookkeeping as per directed by a CPA or somebody like that. I didn't realize that with my business, I could really do anything I wanted to do. So that opened up a lot of different things. And so now I feel like I'm just on a journey. Who knows where it will take me? I'm surrounded by the most amazing people, everybody in this group, my team, and everybody that I meet at conferences, and everybody, my clients. I love my clients so much. And so I just sort of figure, I have the skill. I do a lot of research. I connect with really smart people. I have that I'm just going to go with it. And that's why I really love finding out about other people's tech stacks too, because I do not have it figured out. I use what I use, and it's a work in progress.
And technology is changing all the time. So even if you feel like as soon as you feel like I got this figured out, something new comes along that really disrupts it. So,
Yeah.
it is, I think we're going to be on this continuous journey of new solutions, new markets. It's constantly disrupting, and it's exciting.
It is really
So
exciting. And I feel like if we're, together as a community, sort of on this cutting edge, I can't even tell. I'm sure you guys all experience this all the time. Clients come to you because their, old-timey accountant doesn't understand anything about technology. So, they bring me in and, I can implement all kinds of stuff. I love that too. Like you, Heather, I love connecting systems and figuring out, bypassing this and bringing it into QuickBooks that way. I really enjoy that. And it kind of just keeps it interesting for me. And it's my way of being creative. So I really like it.
I
Here's to
agree.
that.
You're in the right place. Yeah,
I agree. I think that being online was definitely a segue to many of us in our career. Just allows for a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
So, Heather, I'm going to do a brief shout out to our sponsors here to
Awesome.
say thank you for making Appy Hour free. Thank you for bringing Appy Hour to our community. And there is some amazing tech that has sponsored us throughout this entire year and into 2025. And part of each of our episodes is we dive in deep to the tech and we go through how to use it, who's the best fit, what are some need to knows. So deep dives are where you learn a lot about each of these apps. And we have an exciting deep dive that's going to be coming soon that's going to be covering Katana. So we'll be giving that date out soon, but I want to go ahead and focus on talking about Rachel and talking about your firm. So team size, you got 5 people. Client size, you're in this e-commerce space, and growth. So you want to scale to an enterprise level, which I'm going to say probably is partially why you've got a standardized tech stack, is it allows for that growth.
Definitely. And, I don't have a ton of clients at this point. I know, there are other firms that have got hundreds. I'm a little bit newer, but also we get deep into the inventory. So I take larger clients that need a lot of implementation and a lot of inventory help. And so because of that, I have bigger clients, but less of them, which I actually really enjoy. That's kind of what I wanted to do from the beginning, is I wanted to not deal with hundreds and hundreds of clients, because it's very, I'm new to being an entrepreneur and a business owner. And so it was a little overwhelming, and this is a little more manageable for me. But yeah, I would love to grow to an enterprise level firm. I never would have said that in the beginning, but now I feel like I've learned a lot. But as I was explaining to you guys earlier, I don't want that overnight. Like I said before, I'm getting my master's in accounting, and I really would like to just kind of continue working with clients throughout that process. Now I depend on my team a lot, and just sort of a longer term goal. I would love to get to that point.
Well, I want to pick on the e-commerce and inventory, because you're talking about diving deep into fewer clients, but that's because of the niche that you're in. So when we were talking, we had an opportunity to hear more about your tech strategy, and I would love for you to share that, because you have a thought about being able to speak to your clients' problems means that you also need to incorporate some of that tech into your own firm. So do you want to share some of that mindset?
Sure. Yeah. So for apps that we use as a firm, I'll start with Shopify. My website is on Shopify, and I actually created it on Shopify because I wanted to understand how my clients were using Shopify. And so I thought, well, let me just go ahead and put mine on. So I actually do sell fun accounting and bookkeeping merch through the Shopify sales widgets. And so that's actually on the first page of my accounting service oriented business, but I sort of hacked it, and I'm also selling merch on it. So I'm able to teach myself everything. And so I do sell things and I get sales that come in frequently, and I get the notifications. All of the sales get posted to QuickBooks with automation. And I'm able to, track my sales tax and utilize all those things. So Shopify, we do use internally. I also have other people that are doing blog posts and social media for me. It's all done through the Shopify platform. And I also do my newsletters through the Shopify platform too. So, and I actually have it integrated with MailChimp, which, I've always used. So I can use all of those integrations to help run my own firm, which I'm using with Shopify, which I really like. I also had a smaller Shopify store, which I was selling educational toys for kids. But when I started my master's, I had to shut it down because it was too many things. And my husband was starting to get worried. But yeah, so, and of course, QuickBooks Online. I have used desktop in the past, but I don't now. It's one of those things for streamlining. My first year that I started taking on clients, I was remoting into their desktop with Right Networks, but it was taking too much time with that stuff and troubleshooting. And I realized I don't have time for that. QuickBooks Online early. So I really just kind of picked a few different things that I use with clients. And I say, this is my specialty. If, you want to use this, great. If not, I'm happy to pass you on to somebody else. But yeah, so as far as internally, yes, Shopify, QuickBooks for sure. Katana is something that I use for clients. My own firm isn't on Katana, although I did have my toy store. I was using Katana just so I could learn it. But the other visual right here is something that I am obsessed with is RightTool. So thank you, Hector. Developed by Hector Garcia, by the way, and Mark, who I'm not sure of his last name, but I know he's the developer. And this has totally changed everything. And I have to say, I had the free version of RightTool, and I was using it for a few different things. And then somebody that works with us is Deb, and Deb's on here. And Deb said, Rachel, why aren't you using this, that, and that, and that, and that? And I was like, I don't know. And so she pointed out, batch deleting and all these different things. And it totally changed everything. And she's like, oh, you can just like hit the button and go right to reconcile. And just these shortcuts that I really didn't even realize, because I just didn't have a lot of time to sit into all the webinar updates that he's doing. And so for me, I would say the biggest game changer for me, for the way that I'm doing things, and even doing the books for my own firm, is RightTool. I can't not have it.
So Rachel, I have a question. You talked about how you implemented Shopify and other tools because you want to understand your client's tech stack. And I love that. So when you're finding new applications or new needs, I don't even want to say applications. So you're finding new needs within your firm. What is the strategy? How do you approach that? Do you reach out to people in the community? Do you look for things that your clients are already using? Where do you go first?
Yeah, well, part of the thing is, when you're using a lot of what we use is an IMS, and that's called an inventory management system. And so if you're using something like Shopify, or if your client is on something like Shopify, the sales are made in Shopify, right? So they need to get over to QuickBooks. And there's a variety of different ways they can get over to QuickBooks, including keying them in manually. And I have a lot of clients that come to me that are doing it that way, and they need help with automation. So there's automation tools. But when you get into a level of complexity, and I've now learned, to sort of hone in and ask these details of what's going on with these clients, then depending on what's going on, if they can't manage their inventory in QuickBooks, if They even can't manage it in Shopify because of the limitations in Shopify. Then they need to go in to something like an IMS, SOS Inventory, or Katana, or something like that. And Katana is unique in that it's really great for manufacturing. And so I do get people that, because I do get a little bit more into the accounting, and I can do manufacturing accounting and that kind of thing. So you do want to use something that is tailored like that. So instead of them just buying stuff and reselling stuff, a lot of these folks are manufacturing it here. Or maybe they're manufacturing it overseas, but they still want to, a refined cost of what's going on. So we do want to calculate it in something like Katana. And so, but then guess what? You've added another thing into the mix. And what happens when you have too many things in the mix? Duplication. And so I have now learned to look for a lot of these issues, and I can see things duplicated. And so when I look for those things, that's, I would say, the biggest thing that I'm looking at, right? I want to see if things are duplicated coming into QuickBooks. I want to see if they're duplicated in Shopify. I want to see if there's any of these like usual suspect problems that are going on. And that's what will point me in a direction to solve that problem. Or I was looking for something that, I could do factor in landed costs. And think about it this way, like a lot of what we're doing with these cloud-based solutions, with Shopify, with Katana, with all these things, we're sort of like replicating what you can do in QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, but in a cloud-based scenario. So think about, like, for maybe even some of the people that are here that are really seasoned and good at Desktop Enterprise, some of those features that you can do, you can't do that in QuickBooks Online. So, so a lot of those things you can do landed costs and in a lot of these applications. And so then we can have a really refined inventory valuation. And then of course you can just keep going and make it as complex as you want. But that's really the crux of what I'm looking for, is I'll look for the duplication, or I'll look for them doing something manually. And that's where I'm like, oh, okay, we can automate that. We can automate that. But we have to make sure that we're only bringing in that thing from this one thing, and we're only bringing in that thing from that one thing. So you kind of create like a little custom situation, and it's really fun. I love it.
That's where I think that your choice of this tech stack strategy of pulling in the apps that your client is using, that's where I think there's a lot of value in it, because now you understand when things are going wrong, what do you do to fix them? So I want to go ahead and look at some of the other apps that you're using internally to give some folks some ideas about what else are you using inside your firm.
Sure. Yeah. So RightTool, yep, just described. It's the best thing ever. I'll say one thing. I know Hector mentioned this in one of his last webinars, is that Intuit now is like, ooh, RightTool's doing this. We're going to steal it and put it into QuickBooks Online. So now, and so Hector's like, no, we'll probably do away with this thing and that thing, because, they're so advanced and so forward thinking that, now Intuit wants to keep up with him. And of course, QuickBooks, Rewind I use. I don't know where I originally heard about Rewind, but I've been using it forever. And I do strongly recommend that my clients set themselves up with Rewind. I do know some people mandate that their clients use Rewind. I should probably do that too, but I use it internally for my own backup.
On Rewind, do you use it for both Shopify and QuickBooks Online?
I just use it for QuickBooks Online, but I probably should do it for Shopify too. Yeah, all of my items are dropship, so I'm not super worried about that, but yeah, I mean, I probably should. So yeah, Shopify that we talked about, Slack. So we used to do everything in Slack because, like I said, I was really focused more on learning all the things, how to do all this connection for all of my clients. And I wasn't really focusing on the internal apps. And it's really been the past year since I've expanded my team that we've really dialed into some more helpful things. So we were using Slack for everything. Now we're really just using it for, client communication. I mean, sorry, internal communication. I was using it for client communication because, again, Erin told me, she's like, I invite my clients into the Slack channel. And I thought, oh, I should do that. So I was doing that for a while, and then I realized, no, we're going to use something that we use now, and we now communicate with our clients that way. But Slack is all internal, but still love it. It's the greatest. So one thing that we use is Zenit, and I love Zenit. Do you guys use it? Do you know anything about it?
Yes, it's fantastic for review.
Yeah, we use it for review. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and basically, and I actually give this example sometimes to clients, when they want to know, oh, you do a lot of automation, are you just having machines do all the work? And I explain to them, no, really, and I'll use Zenit as an example. What it'll do is it'll just highlight, sift through all the data and show the things that we need to fix instead of having to go through everything manually. Instead, it'll grab the items that need fixing, pop them into the little dashboard, so then we can go in and address it. So it speeds up everything. And I know my team really likes it too. So, and that's usually the example that I'll give to clients. It's not the machine is doing it for you. It's just that it's sifting out and bringing forward the things that need to be done. And then Texture, we don't use it internally. That's something that I have my clients use. But so I, when I first started, I signed up for everything, and I had so many redundancies. Again, I thought I had to. And so then what I did is I got rid of everything, because I actually was talking to Mariette Martinez, and Mariette said, all you're doing is confusing yourself. Just start with a Google Sheet. Start with listing your clients in a Google Sheet, organize your firm stuff in a Google Sheet, do that. Then when you feel that you've got a handle on that and you kind of want to incrementally, add a little thing here and there. So that's what I did. And it was the best thing ever. It was the best advice. So I use Google Workspace. And we do, Google Drive for all the things. Now we're using Client Hub. So Client Hub I love, and that's our practice management tool. And that's our main communication with clients. So we use that now for the folders. So storing all the stuff for our client for month end, we'll usually get copies of their tax returns, and sometimes we'll do a comparison. And so we'll store all the stuff in Client Hub. We use it for the client communication, like I said, and then we use it for our own internal tasks. And then you can move the thing over from in progress to, from not started to in progress to finished. And it's got a really cool interface that I really like. And then a client facing portal that they see when they log in. And then they can also log in through a little thing I put on my website. And then it also has an app, and then I can log in from my end. So I'm actually using it for me more, not for client work, because my team's doing that, but I do it more for my tasks and things that I need to do, which I really focus more on implementation, integration, and cleanups. And a lot of that stuff, I'll go back, I'll post sales historically and a lot of that kind of stuff. So I put tasks on there for myself. I assign my team the things in practice management. In Client Hub. And so we use Google Sheets for, sometimes we have to, share one with our client. We have to have them update something. We'll use a Google Sheet. I'll always use a Google Sheet for a master inventory list. And I'll usually put a link of that in the customer section, the client section in Client Hub. So then they can click on the shared Google Sheet. So we're only using one thing. I never send Excel sheets back and forth over email, ever, 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 ever. So the only thing that I'll allow is a shared Google Sheet. So yeah, it's worked out really well for our team. So I'm getting less out of the Google world, and more into Client Hub, and it's been great. We really like it. And then LastPass for our password storage. Again, didn't know anything, and I was just writing them down on paper in the very beginning. And then I, of course, learned very, very quickly that that can't be.
It's not sustainable. Well, I
Yeah,
love the
and
transparency, and we even have Judy here and David here from Client Hub. So if you've got any Client Hub questions, feel free to ask them, because Client Hub is an amazing practice management solution. And Heather and I have done a deep dive. We've been friends with Judy for a long time, so thoroughly support that software.
yeah, and I have to say that's one of the reasons why now I'm back in creating a lot of Zaps, because Client Hub connects with Zapier. And I learned that from Heather early on. Don't use anything that isn't Zapier compatible. And so that's one of the first things I look for now. And so that's an incredible tip. And so,
Okay.
yeah, so I can connect a lot of Zaps. And then, although I don't know, I thought I put Anchor on there. I do use Anchor too for my proposals that I send out, and you can connect Zapier to that too. And actually, one thing that I just talked to Judy about the other day is I just created it. So when the client signs the proposal in Anchor, it creates the new client in Client Hub, so you don't have to go in and do that. So I'm really starting to get into a lot of these just basic admin things that I can just automate, and I love it. It's the greatest. So Client Hub's really worked out.
I want to get into one of these solutions that you've talked about quite a bit. So it's not going to be any surprise that we're in deep dive just a little bit deeper, but RightTool. So RightTool has got some amazing features, and it sounds like there's a lot of people here that are using it. And I was wowed even just this week with RightTool, with a peer who's here who was showing me something that's like, did you know that you can actually batch change the bank account on transactions?
Yeah.
Which is something that we used to have to download into an accountant tool.
Yeah.
We had to pay for the subscription. And so now you can do it right inside of RightTool, which
yeah. And you know what's even what we use it more for, not necessarily for a mass delete of a bank account. We use it for a mass delete of a clearing account. And so, because we deal with a lot of clearing accounts, and a lot of times we goof it up and have to go back and fix it, or post something to one thing and we realize like, oops, this needs to be in that clearing account, batch delete. I would have to, especially with a cleanup. And so even before I even knew what SASANT was, I would manually one by one, because I didn't know any different. And then I started using SASANT, and again, it took me a while to figure out the delete function. I didn't know that there was a delete, and then I did, and of course that's great. But now being able to batch delete this way or batch edit also is the greatest. Well, I love it. It's very satisfying. And I don't know if you guys have seen it where they drop off one by one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
I love it.
Like the beauty is like that you know that that's happening. So
see it going away. It's
yes.
Yeah.
I know. Instead of it just like doing it in the background and then saying finished, like it's very satisfying to see them go one by one. I'm very weird like that.
So I want to get over into your external tech stack, which we've talked a little bit about, but I want to go ahead and share some of these apps because you are in a niche space. It does make sense that you're using Katana, and you've got, you even have some e-commerce apps here. So yeah, do you want to talk us through some of these apps that you're using for your clients?
Sure. Yeah. So I think this one down here at the bottom, I think that's SASANT, right? So I still use that a lot. I mean, it's just because I'm very familiar with it. And I mean, I'm sure as everybody here, if you're doing a lot of cleanups, I mean, sometimes it's the best thing. One thing I also use that I maybe I forgot to put it on here, but and I'm happy to talk about this with anybody offline or whatever, but it's called Amalgam, and that does the same thing. So you basically can download the transactions into an Excel sheet or Google sheet, edit them, and then just upload them back in. Very similar to Sasant, except for you don't have to go into a cloud-based app. You can just do it right in your own
Browser.
sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
but the need for that for me and for our firm is really, really important. We've got to like sometimes wipe out a whole bunch of data all at once. And so then the two e-com connectors that I use almost exclusively, and I'm in every single day of my life, are both Cinder and Bookkeep. Go
All
ahead.
right, tell why, because I like both of those, but since you're using them both, can you tell us when do you use one or the other? What's the
Yes. So,
distinction?
and this is probably the most important thing. And it's really, really important. So if your client is managing their inventory in QuickBooks and they have inventory items, you cannot use Bookkeep because Bookkeep doesn't adjust the inventory quantities. It just posts a summary for the day. And it'll also update your cost of goods sold, but it's not going to update your quantities. So now I have a lot of clients in which they don't manage their inventory in QuickBooks. And so for that reason, and they're very high volume, Bookkeep is the best because it brings it in the way that we want it. We want a consolidated journal entry. And so for that reason, I'll often use Bookkeep for that. And I also just recently did a setup for this client that had 10 Shopify stores and some other stuff too. So he had a ton of channels. And for that, Bookkeep was the best because we were able to connect all of the things that we needed. And in the other stores, own not the payments, but just the revenue coming in and posting it. So it really does give you that customization that when you can look at the mapping and customize it, it's really great. Now, then if you're using, if a client is managing their inventory in QuickBooks and you need to have individual transactions, either invoices or sales receipts, there's nothing better than Cinder. It is amazing. And I work very closely with them. And I would recommend that hands down if you need to have that granularity. It's incredible.
And they can do summaries as well.
Yes. So they give you the option of a summary or an
Mhm.
individual sales transaction. And now also, I just worked with them and because I had the need, I said, hey, can you guys do this? And they said, no, but we'll develop it for you. They can now grab Shopify tags. They couldn't do that before.
Wow.
They could
Oh,
only
that's
grab,
awesome.
they could only grab product type and category and separate it out that way. And so I just worked with them. Now we set up a client where we can bring in onto the P&L on the income. We can separate that out by tag, and we can also separate out cost of goods sold by tag and inventory by tag. So that's something really cool. So those guys are super, super smart, super skilled. And if you ask them for that type of thing, they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll just develop it for you. So it's incredible.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love that. You know, and it's so true with these e-commerce companies. What I found, because I did a lot with e-commerce too, is that every client wants reporting a little bit differently.
Yeah.
The metrics that they're using to gauge the success of their business varies from, you know, of course we have things like sales, but depending on what the product is, they may be more concerned with one kind of area.
Yes.
For example, one could be volume. If they're operating on low margins, they're very concerned with the volume, right?
Yes.
And the cost of goods sold. So yeah, it's so finding a developer that will work with you that is able to do some of that customization or has that flexibility to bring in all those different fields is just so important.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also now getting more into so that's the thing is that I'll ask them, how do you want this broken down on your reporting? And they're like, oh, I can have it different than, what comes in standard. And so it's really cool to be able to customize that for them. What I'm doing now is seeing a lot of people that are dropship and regular. So they're holding an inventory and then they're fulfilling inventory items, but they're also drop shipping. And I recommend that they separate those two out so they can see what the revenue is with dropship and what their revenue is for their regular inventory items. So there's always a need to customize that. And with tags, I didn't come across anything that you were able to do that with Shopify tags. So I think that Cinder is going to be able to pull in anything that's in Shopify. They'll be able to break it down in basically any way we want. So that's the way they work is you want it, we'll figure it out. So, and another thing that I really love about Cinder and what I use for some people is I'll just grab the payment because I will have the sale posting through something else. So I'm just grabbing the payment. I'm grabbing the payment and the payout. And so I want that coming in the bank feed. So I'll use Cinder just for that. But let's say, for instance, I have the sales coming through Katana or something like that. So it's really cool that you can break these things up and really highly customize it.
I love that. And thank you for breaking it apart, like when you're using which solution, because I think that a lot of people are in the e-commerce space by default. Our clients are there. And so, so are we. But the inventory piece, I think, is where a lot of people start to shy away from. But because of the e-commerce world, I feel like we are very much in a space where we're going to have to get familiar with inventory. We're going to have to get familiar with some of these apps that are going to manage the stock on hand. They're going to manage all of these different tags. And it's like you were talking about too, reporting matters. So we need the detail.
We do. And, inventory businesses, in my opinion, feel free to challenge me, is an underserved market. No one wants to touch inventory. So if you can find a good solution that makes it easier to work with, there's a huge market out there and so many companies that need help with this.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell just by even when you look at somebody's balance sheet, like you're doing a cleanup or something, and you can tell it's all messed up. Yeah, it's something that not a lot of people get right. And it's because it's a lot of times it's business owners trying to do it on their own. And so they don't necessarily know what's going on. Or they're posting, payouts incorrectly and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it can be really tricky, but I was going to say, I get into some of the, more complex stuff, but for people watching, you don't have to do that. I mean, you can literally have, simple mapping, simple connection, bring in a journal entry for the day. I mean, you can really, you don't have to get into complex breakdowns and customization. I mean, use Cinder and this and that. I mean, you can have it quite simple and not deal with all that.
And even that market is underserved.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things that we wanted to highlight is there are a lot of inventory solutions out there that are around, but the reason why we wanted to talk about Katana is because they're different and they've got a lot of integration options. They've got a really nice interface. So I know that Katana is the app that you wanted to dive into a little bit deeper and shared a screenshot with us, but do you want to kind of walk us through what it was that you wanted to highlight here?
Yeah, so one thing that I really like about Katana is it's great for manufacturers. So this is a client of mine that they're manufacturing. So, and when I say manufacturing, I mean they have assembly items. So that's basically a component. So they have fabric and they have thread and they have whatever, all these little things that make up the finished product. So we need to track these assembly items, and then we also need to track the finished good. So Katana is perfect for something like that. And you can see all these different variants here, like the pink and the white and the large and the medium and small. This is exactly how it is in Shopify. So in Katana, we want to have the finished products exactly as they are in Shopify. So that way it can, the order can sync from Shopify to Katana and then decrease the inventory when there's a sale. And then when she does a production run and uses up the raw materials and creates finished goods, we can then track how much of that is used and then how many finished goods that creates. And then it syncs the orders and then it sends it to QuickBooks Online. When she is also purchasing goods, whether they're materials or she does purchase some finished goods to resell too, hats and visors and bags and things like that. Those purchases can then get synced to QuickBooks as a bill. And there's not a lot of things that'll sync POs, just FYI. So this Katana is really great for syncing the purchase orders. But anyway, so I put, list all the variants exactly as they are in Shopify. The cost is listed right there. It's like a grid. My eyes are kind of crazy, so sometimes I have a hard time seeing stuff. This for me, you can see at the very top, it's all of the things. There's not a lot of extra stuff going on. And then you can see the list of the products. That little tab that says materials, that would be for the component items. Products is for finished goods. And I can literally see the Shopify category that we've assigned, this customer facing sales price, the cost, the margin, and then we can even factor in the production time. And then Katana uses, it's called moving average inventory evaluation. So it basically takes, when you put in a purchase order and the cost is something on day one, and then let's say you purchase some more materials on 3 months later and it's a different cost, it averages those together. So do you guys know how they do it in QuickBooks Online?
Not the same.
In QuickBooks Online, if you're using the inventory module, it's first in, first out. So that means that the stuff that goes out is always going to be what goes in first. So this is a little different, is that in that it averages everything together. So again, manufacturers sometimes really want that nuanced thing so they can really analyze their margins. So, so some people may ask, oh, okay, great. Well, I'm using an external dashboard that I can look at my sales and all the stuff. Well, that's great too. I have no problem with that. A lot of them sync in with Katana, but I'm really just talking about bringing everything into QuickBooks so we can look at our bottom line. And that's really sort of what I'm focusing on. But for anybody that's like, oh, but what about these external reporting tools? For sure. I mean, and you can look at the specific marketplace, the specific platform and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're consolidating all of the data into QuickBooks and looking at that net income. And then obviously as everything goes over to the balance sheet. So for me, from my point of view, that inventory valuation on the balance sheet is really important as that goes up and it goes down. So I really want to see everything in QuickBooks Online.
Awesome.
Well, it sounds like Wendy said that there's an email that went out today too, talking about a relationship between Katana and QuickBooks Online. So there you go. There's another reason to check them out. I
have to say that
with Katana. They caught my
attention. I have to say that go ahead.
To look at. It's just a clean dashboard. It's easy to access. It's the app. There's even an inventory app, which makes it really convenient for people who are on the go and doing sales. So Katana is definitely, in my opinion, it's one of the inventory solutions out there that's here and growing with this type of online.
Yeah, they're definitely growing. And I should say, you don't have to be a manufacturer. You could also not use the materials, and then you can just have finished goods if you're just buying finished goods. And a lot of people ask me, like, what can I sync the purchases from Shopify into QuickBooks Online? There's an app in the App Store that you can, but you still have to know how to figure that out. And so This has got a native integration to sync the purchases to QuickBooks Online, which is really nice. So you definitely can manage finished goods. You can push these levels to different, like multiple platforms. It definitely has some limitations. But again, I know that they're making a lot of improvements and they're working on things. I probably wouldn't use it for drop shipping, but definitely for just straight inventory. And if they're also manufacturing, definitely it works great.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights about Katana because they are going to be coming on and we're going to be doing a deep dive with them June 11th. So those of you who are like, okay, fine, I'll look at inventory, I encourage you to join us.
Yes, definitely.
It's like what Rachel is saying. It doesn't have to be manufacturing. My world does not include manufacturing. I don't have any desire for that. But I do like a lot of the things that you are also pointing out, Rachel. So, bundles are easy inside of Katana. It's got a really nice, like you were talking about, the integration piece. So I encourage you to join us for Katana, even if you are just thinking, all right, maybe I want to learn more about it. So that way, just in case I know somebody who's looking for inventory, what's the new things out there? So join us. It's not one of those apps that's super expensive. I find it fairly affordable whenever you're in some of those entry levels. It's got plenty of sales capability in those entry levels.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Jean, you do not have to have it connected to an e-commerce platform. You can just have it sync directly with QuickBooks Online. If they're manufacturing, send invoices straight out from Katana. They'll sync to QuickBooks Online, call it a day. You do not have to use it for e-commerce. I went to them originally needing it for e-com, but and then I discovered all this other stuff that they do. And so it's cool.
That's awesome to know.
I'm looking forward to that.
So Heather, do you want to share some of our exciting news here about camp?
Yes, absolutely. So we are doing Appy Hour Camp 2024. It's going to be September 22nd through the 26th in Tubac, Arizona. We're super excited. It is a 3-day retreat with education, inspiration, rejuvenation, and it's meant for intentional accounting educators in the space. So those who are actively teaching and creating content to share with other accounting professionals in the space. We're really excited. We have Intuit joining us as a sponsor. We've got My Task LMS Advisory, who are going to be joining us, and we're going to be doing a hackathon. We're going to be doing all kinds of fun things. So our applications are open now. They close on April 30th. So you have 1 week to get an application in to attend this event. We've done it once before. Rachel, you were there.
It was amazing. It was probably one of the best things I've ever been to. And I'll be there again this year. And can I just say thank you for picking Arizona, because I live in Michigan and my favorite food is Mexican, and we do not have good Mexican food here. So I am always in it for the food. So thank you.
The location is beautiful and the food is fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, make sure to check out Appy Hour on YouTube. This video is going to be listed very, very soon, as well as any of the other apps that we have covered. I think, Heather, I heard you say that we have like 110 videos that are on YouTube. So we've covered a lot of apps and a lot of those in deep dives. So a lot
of those are deep dives, and a lot of them are fun, and it's definitely lots of information. So if you're looking to see a demo of an app that you're considering, you can probably find one on Appy Hour. And I think we're actually, Liz, we're over 125 videos. We've been at this for quite a while.
But if there's something that you're looking for and it's not on there, let us know, because that's part of what we do is we are listening to our market and we're hearing what is it that you want us to have on, so that way you can learn more about it. Because we understand that everybody's busy. So if we're asking the questions, it prevents you from having to spend time scheduling and booking. We'll have it available for you to watch on demand.
Absolutely. So yeah, let us know if there's apps that we should be having on Appy Hour. We want to hear from you.
I just want to add one more thing too, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think my contact information was on one of the slides, was it? Or I'm not really sure, but if anybody wants to chat more about this, I'm happy to. This is also how I learn, is by talking with people about what they're using and, you know, in what capacity, and or are they using something new, or are they using something that I use that it doesn't work for something that they need. This is the only reason I know what I know, literally. So please, like, reach out to me, and I'm happy to chat with you about really anything inventory related.
Well,
Love
it's
it.
all about relationships. So
Oh.
I am grateful, Rachel, that you came and you shared your tech stack so bravely with all of us, because there's so much that we can gain from each other. And we are going to have another tech stack deep dive with Veronica Wasak, who I absolutely just admire tremendously. So she's going to be joining us May 14th. And then we're going to be doing the My Task LMS. Don't miss that one. That one's all about training. So if you are looking for training for your firm, if you're somebody who wants to onboard somebody but doesn't have the time to train them, that is what My Task LMS does. And then
you're going to be blown away. Can't wait for that deep dive. Yeah,
it's fantastic software. And then we've got Katana that we're going to be doing a deep dive with, and then we're going to be live with all of you at Scaling New Heights.
absolutely. And we're actually, Liz and I are going to be on site too at the Accounting Today Growth Forum. Liz is going to be, she's going to be on the main stage doing part of a panel on artificial intelligence. And I am going to be teaching no code automation. So we'll be there. If anybody else is going to be in San Diego, make sure to find us and take a pic and hang out, maybe have a cocktail.
I love that. Looking forward to all of it. I love the summertime busy activities. It's so fun. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will see you